and welcome to Framed
Canvas, cuffs, and
other stuffs. This podcast is about crime.
And art.
And our crime.
Wake up. Pay attention.
We've got art.
And it's juicy. Little Toto.
Little Toto. Hello, Joel.
Hello. Who's Joel?
Sorry, what
I think you mean Andy.
Andy Wahala.
I feel like I feel like because I'm dressed like Andy, I'm like sitting like Andy as well. Like I need a cigarette.
Yeah. You just start like screen print. Spooky.
Come to my factory. No, that's not how he talks.
Yeah, I wonder.
Come to my factory. What did he sound like? I don't think I've ever heard him speak.
Yeah, I can't remember.
I don't remember either.
You know what? If we leave this in, I'll insert a little clip of him speaking.
Yeah.
I feel like he'd be very softly.
Hello, Governor.
Hello. He's actually British.
Mandy Warhol.
Oh, Mandy Warhol. It's good to see you. Would you like to buy some soup?
What with the thing in that?
Yeah, I can't remember what he sounds like.
Well, we will find out in the
find
edit.
How are you, Joel?
I'm great. It's been a minute.
It's been a hot minute, literally.
Yes.
We are dressed up still.
Yes.
But you've
been in these all week.
All week. We have not changed.
No.
You know what? If you saw us out on the town this week, you would have noticed we were not Joel and Steph. We were Dorothea
And you brought the wind with you.
I brought the wind.
Windy as.
Came in on my little Kansas wind.
Yeah.
What spooky movie are you going to recommend to the people today?
Spooky movie. Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Ooh. Okay. Ooh.
Yeah, we should do a spooky rec.
Yes. I'm trying to think of what one scared me.
To be fair, you did recommend Beetlejuice recently. So that
did, but I'm a big movie person.
But you know what?
I've got one. Yes. It is called Long Legs. And it's directed by Osgood Perkins. Now, Osgood Perkins, his father is the man who played Norman Bates in the original Psycho.
Oh, spooky lineage.
And Osgood Perkins was also an actor who played as a kind of cameo in Legally Blonde.
Oh, who was he in Legally Blonde?
Couldn't tell you. Never seen it. All I know is that he's in it. He's like a
whoa,
dorky.
Whoa. You've never seen Legally Blonde?
No, I haven't.
That is.
I know all the bits. I know all the beats of the. Oh, you look like the 4th of July. Like I know the bits, but I've never seen it.
Don't stomp your little Prada shoes at me. Last season, little Prada shoes at me, honey. Such stereotypical gay.
I think he plays some like nerdy character or like a bookworm or something like that. Osgood Perkins has directed this new indie horror and it's called Long Legs and it's heavily inspired by kind of Silence of the Lambs, 90s crime thriller.
Puts the lotion on his skin.
Yes. And the main bad guy in it is Nicolas Cage. Acting is absolute arse off.
Yeah.
And he's in face prosthetics.
Ooh.
So he doesn't look like him. He looks like a botched, like someone who's had like fillers and all of that kind of stuff. Yeah, Nicolas Cage plays this kind of like I won't give too much away because I want everyone to watch it.
Yes.
Serial killer. Think Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs. Very obscure, very strange.
Yeah.
There's an indication that he might have like used to be like a glam rock kind of person.
Oh.
But he's had all this surgery done to his face and he just looks so
Creepy.
scary and off-putting. You only see him in certain parts of the film. They keep him like quite hidden. And when you see him, it's just so viscerally uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But the storyline is so interesting. Like it plays out like this really intricate crime thriller. So it's very like it keeps you on the edge of your seat. It's the cinematography, everything about it is so well done. You feel like you're watching a movie from the 90s.
General plot without giving too much away.
General plot, there's this new detective called Mike, who's played by Micah Monroe. Her name is Lee Harker. She's been assigned to an ongoing investigation that they can't seem to crack about these murders that happen kind of to families.
Okay.
So, which is, it's pretty grisly.
Yeah.
But they can't seem to catch what's happening. And the person who, after these murders happen, they always find these notes, and these notes are written in kind of like code, kind of like the Zodiac Killer.
Ooh.
And they're all signed off by Longlegs.
Ooh.
And she has these kinds of, she's brought onto the case because she's got a bit of a psychic ability.
Ooh, she's a psychic detective.
Yes. So it's really, if you're faint of heart, if scary movies aren't your thing, I probably wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah.
Because even for me, who's like a horror lover, I was quite affected by it. I loved being affected by it, but
but it was a lot.
It was a lot.
What did you find anything different from watching it the first time to the second time that you picked up that you were like, oh, I didn't realize that, but now that I've seen it is
riddled with Easter eggs.
Ooh.
So riddled with things that would kind of steer you in the direction of where it's going if you knew where it was going.
Yeah.
So there's things to look out in the background. There's little beats of dialogue that you go, okay, now that I've seen it, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But when you're watching it the first time, you don't pick up on it because you don't really know what you're looking for.
Yeah.
It is so good.
I love. Okay.
I don't know what streaming it's on at the moment, but I know it's available on demand.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Well.
Longlegs.
Watch
Spooky
it.
Scary. What about you?
I don't think I've watched any real spooky things recently.
What's a movie that just rattles you to your core? Fern Gully.
Legally Blonde.
That blob oil thing that monster was scary.
Yes. I don't know if anything besides, like others and things like Old School, which we've spoken about. Like the others really freaked me out. I'm trying to think of what was like.
Talk about a plot twist.
Oh, I know.
You can't say anything if you haven't seen it.
But the classic for a reason.
Nicole Kidman.
Really,
giving it her all.
She really acted her little butt off in that.
Yes, good scream too. She's got a great scream.
Like she's up with the Sarah Paulsons of the world.
Yes.
No one can scream like her.
No, she won't stop screaming in American Horror Story.
It'll be a happy story. She's screaming.
Yeah. Did you accidentally watch something or like maybe peek into the living room when it was past your bedtime and your parents were watching something scary?
No, because I was an only child, so I feel like all the movies they watched, I ended up just watching because they'd be like, oh, we'll put this on. And you're like, this is not for children. Yeah. I think for me, I was more a witchy mystic girl. So it was very much like The Craft and Practical Magic.
Yes. Love. Apparently they're doing a second one.
Yeah. They're also doing a second Freaky Friday.
Oh, yeah. Freakier Friday.
Can't wait. Lindsay, she's back.
And she's looking great.
Good on her. You know what? Good on her, and give her an Oscar. She'll get one day. I'm determined.
I don't know if she'll get one for Freakier Friday,
but
you never know. It could really
blow our socks off. That's the thing she gets it for.
Take us on an emotional roller coaster.
No, one day she's going to get a role and everyone will be like, that's her Oscar role.
Yeah, I reckon she'll keep doing these like she'll get back into the groove. So I know she's doing a lot of like Netflix rom-coms and things like that. So she's getting back out there.
Yeah.
And she's doing Freakier Friday. I reckon someone's going to cast her in something in the next 5 years that's maybe like an indie or something, and she just delivers the performance of a lifetime.
She's great.
She is great.
I love watching her.
Yeah.
And you know what? She's really come back.
Yeah.
And she's got a kid now.
Yeah, she's mother. She's just looking fantastic. She looks healthy and great. And
I love to see
I think
it.
she's moved away from Hollywood.
Which is probably for the best.
The best thing she could have done. Yeah. Do you know what I was just thinking? A movie that really scared me when I was little. Did you ever watch We're Back?
No.
The dinosaurs? It's a cartoon.
Yeah.
It's about these dinosaurs. Yeah, SJ knows. It's about these dinosaurs that get kind of like brought back to present day or the 90s. There is the villain in it is this circus. He's called Mr. Screwdriver or something like that.
Oh, God.
And he runs this circus and he wants these dinosaurs for his circus. And he's so evil and he's very, very alarming. And he's got I think he gets eaten by crows in it. It's really dark.
Yeah.
But it's a great kids film. It's got an amazing like musical number in it.
Yeah.
It's so 90s. But yeah, that one character, Dr. Screw or Dr. Screwdriver, whatever his name was so scary.
There was another film.
It used to terrify me.
it might have the Tower of Terror. I feel like was
With
that
Kirsten Dunst?
I feel like that was a movie that I was like, this is like, because you know, when you're a kid, I was like, this is a creepy little film.
It was scary.
And then
it was the story of the Tower of Terror ride at not a Dream World, but the one at Disneyland. Yeah. There's a little girl ghost in it, and I think the whole time you think her caretaker was the one who like killed her because she couldn't stand her, but I think no one's going to watch this film. I think
you should though.
The caretaker ends up being a good person. And someone else is
evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. The person that you're like.
Kirsten Dunst is in it, I'm pretty sure.
Where's the stepmom that's evil?
Yes. That's rough for stepmoms.
Yeah. Sorry, stepmoms. Like you've already got.
Stepmoms quite often step up to the role.
Oh. Yeah. I like that. Yeah. What, Andy? Good call.
Good call. Thank you, darling. Dorothy?
Shall we jump into my little tale?
Let's go.
It's not necessarily spooky, but there are some spooky things around it. So I'm going to start this story.
Spooky adjacent.
Yeah. Spooky adjacent. Lore. So it's the early hours of August 28th, 2005.
Okay.
The sleepy town of Grand Rapids in Minnesota.
Oh, in Minnesota.
Is that how the accent is?
I think so, but we're doing it a bit Irish.
Yeah.
Minnesota.
The clock has just struck 2 a.m. and the night is still, almost too still. Suddenly, a window in the rear emergency door of a local museum shatters. Glass is scattering like confetti.
Ooh.
Someone has broken in, and inside of a plexiglass case, at a size 5.5, there is a burgundy-coloured shoe sitting inside this case, inscribed with the name Judy Garland.
Oh, okay.
So the case gets smashed to bits and the most valuable shoes in the world vanish.
The ruby
slippers. No fingerprints, no witnesses, just an eerie silence. In less than 2 minutes, these shoes disappeared.
Well, it was a wicked witch of the West.
Obviously, she did. She said, "Give me back my sister's shoes." Yeah. This is a full story about just a sister getting back her dead sister's shoes. Yeah. Joel, are you a friend of Dorothy?
Oh, you cheeky girl.
Hey.
You know it.
Ooh.
I feel like have I seen the shoes? Have they come to Australia?
Don't know actually.
I swear I've seen either like a replica or like, there would have been multiple sets of them.
Yeah.
For the movie.
Yeah.
I remember them being really tiny.
Yeah, she was
tiny.
Well, she would have been 16 at the time of filming, so she would have been a little girl.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first time you ever watched The Wizard of Oz?
Yes, I probably was around about 10 or so. We had the VHS forever. I think it might have been my sister's. And I was just bored of all my movies, and I think I put that on one day. I liked it. I thought it was really, really good. The flying monkeys used to scare the absolute shit out of me.
Yeah. Yes. And, the Wicked Witch, she had a cackle and a voice that you just went, what?
Yes.
Scared of her.
Yeah, she did.
Yeah. Fly, my pretties, fly.
Yeah.
Today, we're going to talk about The Wizard of Oz.
Mm-hmm.
How cursed the film and set were.
Love it. Love it, love it, love it.
And also how a pair of ruby red slippers went missing for 18 years.
Yes.
Wizard of Oz was released in 1939 and America is grappling with the tail end of the Great Depression. So it was a very different time for everyone. Mm-hmm. Cling to hope and I guess this film kind of gave people this sense of, joy and hope and
absolutely
Technicolor.
Wonder, Technicolor.
Yeah. So MGM releases The Wizard of Oz, a Technicolor dream that offers a much needed escape from the bleak reality of the time. At the heart of this cinematic marvel is a 16-year-old girl named Judy Garland.
Yes.
Her voice and vulnerability captivating audiences as she dons the iconic ruby slipper.
Oh, I don't know. Where am I?
What was her aunt's name?
NEM.
And she's like, NEM, come back.
Oh, Toto.
Yeah. MGM is in its golden age and the king of Hollywood, churning out stars and blockbusters like a well-oiled machine. But beneath the sparkle, the studio is a pressure cooker. And obviously this starts Judy's lifelong struggle with addiction. So at the time she was taking diet pills.
Yeah.
And we all know that that was just code for speed.
Yes.
Because she was 16 at the time, but so the film took 6 months to film, but she started to like go through puberty and they wanted to keep her looking young as well. So she was putting on weight and things, and so they were like, just take these pills, doll, you'll be fine.
Oh, Hollywood.
Hollywood.
Am I right?
So the filming of the movie took 6 months and most of the cast works 6 days a week and would arrive at 4 a.m. to get into hair and makeup and would be working until about 7 p.m. or later every day. It was a massive undertaking. So although it is now a cultural phenomenon and icon, it wasn't as popular when it was first released, which is interesting. I didn't know this. So it had a budget of $2.7 million at the time, and in 1939 that would be
humongous. Probably the highest budget for a film at the time, I'm guessing.
Yeah, it was one of MGM's most expensive productions. So when it was released in 1939, it didn't turn a profit. And then it was re-released in 1949 where it made $3 million. So it just made some money then.
I mean, also when you take into account back then in the 30s, like ticket prices, all that kind of stuff, it would take so much for them to even break even.
Oh, yeah.
For a budget that large.
And like
movie tickets would have been like $1.
Yeah. And people would have been sneaking in for free.
Yeah.
You know, and this, I guess you didn't get the sales of like DV or video or
merchandise. Like none of that was a thing.
So you were just making it off the movie alone. And MGM at the time, what they'd do is they'd sign these actresses and actors. So Judy Garland would have been signed for, we're hiring you to make X amount of movies and we'll only pay you this one fee.
Yeah.
So it's not like now where
you can negotiate
per movie. She would have been locked in for, 10 films.
Yeah.
So
and also like obviously in the 30s, computer generated CG, not a thing. Every single set was painstakingly built.
Which is phenomenal.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah.
Just to kind of explain like the whole color transition, and I don't know if you've seen, because this kind of video popped off recently on TikTok, but there is a scene where she walks from the house that's sepia into Technicolor when she goes into the land of Oz, and I'll put the video up, but it's her body double in a sepia outfit walking to the door. The door opens, the body double, and you can't see the front of her face. The body double gets out of frame, and then Judy Garland comes in Technicolor and walks into the set. And the set of her bedroom was painted sepia to look like a sepia tone for the transition.
That is genius.
So smart and so...
I'll have to watch that clip and see. They were so clever because you had to think about that stuff back then because you couldn't just... It wasn't just a computer.
In post. It would have had to have been done, and like to make a costume that's sepia, because she would have been wearing it, I think, because although it's sepia tone at the start of the film, it's just all costume and paint and colouring.
Yeah, and depending what colour she was meant to be wearing, it'd be different shades of sepia. They might have had to do her skin as well.
Yeah, and when you see it, you go, oh, I see that's how they did it. But I am obsessed. Joel, have you ever heard any of the rumours that surround this film?
Certainly have.
Oh, what's the one that sticks out in your mind?
I've got two big ones.
All right, go for it.
The original actor who played the Tin Man.
Yes.
The silver paint that they used to get him into costume ended up giving him, was it lead poisoning?
Yeah, so his name was Buddy Ebsen. So he was originally cast as the Tin Man, and he had to actually leave the film because of the aluminium dust that was in the makeup.
It feels like, apparently it feels like you're suffocating from the inside, like your skin cannot breathe.
Yeah, and interestingly enough, Mythbusters did a kind of tried to bust this myth to see if that's what actually caused it or if he had like a pre-existing condition. So they painted a woman with this kind of aluminium paint and her heart rate started to spike and it was kind of, they couldn't disprove it. They were like, this is actually probably true.
Oh, gosh.
And he did live for a long time afterwards, but eventually he passed away from like lung issues and things like that.
Well, that wouldn't have helped.
No. So yes, correct. And what's your second one?
Second one, it's a bit grim.
Oh, I think I know which one.
Yes. So apparently one of the actors who plays one of the Munchkins, another trigger warning, I guess, killed himself on set by hanging himself. And apparently in one of the scenes, you can see the little silhouette of the Munchkin hanging in the background.
Yeah. So there's this, I guess people can look at the original and then they think that it's been edited out over time.
Or it could have been something else, like
Someone
maybe
thought
like
it was
one
a
of the
bird.
birds.
Yeah. And it has never been confirmed that a Munchkin died on set. And they're like, we probably would have this information if they had. But it's just one of those times where it's like a really iconic movie has all of this rumor and speculation around it, which I love a good spooky coincidence around like something so iconic.
Because then when you see it, and I don't know if they've taken it out now in the DVD releases and whatever, but when you see it, you kind of go, oh no, is that actually what happened? But then like, how does something like that go overseen?
I don't know.
Wouldn't someone have been like, hey, what's that?
Yeah, what's going on back there?
I hope it's not true.
Yeah, me too. So, did you also know that the snow in the poppy field was 100% industrial grade asbestos fibers?
No.
So,
people were so stupid back then.
They're like, wow, it looks really good on film.
Everything was deadly.
Yeah, so anyone who came into contact with this material or inhaled it, it was similar to those who worked in asbestos mines. So potentially did so much damage in that scene. And I believe Judy was asleep in that snowy.
She was.
So who knows if that affected her.
You can't even, like, if they find a thing of asbestos in a building now that's
shut down.
Completely in a different section, it gets completely shut down. This is just free falling willy-nilly all over Judy Garland.
And the thing with asbestos is as soon as the membrane breaks, that's when it becomes the most deadly.
Crystallized.
And so all of this snow would have been broken.
Oh my God.
So yeah, when you look at that poppy field snow scene, it's just pure asbestos.
Oh my God. Everyone back then, they were all eating cigarette sandwiches and
yeah, all the babies are smoking.
All the babies are smoking. Everyone's on diet pills and eating asbestos.
Wild. There was also a rumor that the Munchkins or the little people of the film were all drunks.
Yep, I've heard that too. And caused quite the ruckus.
Yeah, so at the hotel they stayed at ended up becoming trash. So the Wizard of Oz actually hired over 100 little people for the film. And they were actually apparently quite really well, they were all actors. They were respected, except for one who did bring a gun to set one day.
Oh, well, you can't be too careful.
I mean,
in those times.
1939, why not? So he brought a gun to the set because his partner or wife, she was like flirting, I think, with one of the other little people. And he said, you'll get away from my woman.
I'm imagining them in like full Munchkin garb as well, and then one of them just like whips out a pistol, which would have been massive in comparison to his body size.
We represent the Lollipop Guild. He's just got a tiny gun. He wasn't fired after that. They just got the gun off him and said, "All right, off you go."
It's a different time.
Keep it moving. The Munchkin actors have since they just could never get over this controversy, and it was actually Judy Garland who started the rumor. So in a 1967 interview, Judy Garland referred to all of the Munchkins as little drunks who got intoxicated every night to the point where they had to be picked up in butterfly nets.
Butterfly nets. She's just having a laugh.
Yeah, so she was very clearly inebriated in this interview, and everyone...
That's so catty.
I know. She was making a joke, I think, but it just didn't come across like that.
No.
And you just imagine she's like, hey, baby, we picked him up in little butterfly nets. And she was 16 at the time, so how would she know?
Also, like, they're actors and stuff like that kind of stuff tarnishes your rep a little bit, doesn't it?
Yeah, it really does. And for years after, they'd all make these, a lot of them would be interviewed and say that never happened. Like we never trashed a hotel. We were never doing there was rumors of sex parties and orgies, and they're like, this is just people with, I guess, prejudices against little people.
Yeah.
And thinking that, they're being very cheeky and doing little things.
Yeah.
No, they were just going into work, and they apparently all really loved Judy Garland, but they just felt really sad
slighted
that she would say something like that about them, which is sad. One of the, I guess, more interesting ones is, so we'll talk about the Wicked Witch of the West. So she was only in the film for about 12 minutes in total.
Yeah.
So she had such a big impact for a little amount of time, but she really copped it on this film. So during the Munchkinland scene where she disappears, and she'll disappear in a puff of flame and smoke.
Yes. Yeah. Like a flare or something.
Yeah, so it kind of goes bang and she disappears.
Yeah.
Well, they practiced it so there was a drop door. So when the smoke and the flames would go off, she'd disappear through this trapdoor. During the actual filming of this, the trapdoor was faulty, and so she didn't get out in time before the flames came up.
Oh, no.
So she caught on fire. So her name is Margaret Hamilton. So shout out to Margaret. So she dropped through the door. The flames came up and burnt. She got third-degree burns on all her hands, and she got second-degree burns on her face. So the
Where was OH&S?
There
oh my God.
None. So she was wearing green makeup, and within the green makeup was copper.
Oh, stop it.
So as soon as she went up in flames, they had to get the makeup off her as quickly as possible because it was starting to seep into her skin, and they had to use rubbing alcohol on the burns.
Ouch. Oh my God.
So
what a nightmare. The 30s are a nightmare.
And so she said it was the most excruciating pain she'd ever felt. She was like, it was worse than the actual fire catching on my skin, the alcohol being rubbed into my skin.
MGM. This is crazy.
I know. Could you imagine the way where it was probably like, you can't do anything to us. You could get decapitated.
Yeah.
So she actually couldn't go back to film for 6 weeks after this incident. And she said, there's a really cute story about her son. When she called up the nanny who was looking after her son when she was coming home, she's like, you've got to pretend that I'm coming home as in a costume like a mummy, so it doesn't scare me, scare him.
Sad.
Which is really sad. But so she had 6 weeks off to recover, and then she said, all right, when I get back, I will be doing no stunts with fire or anything.
Yep, fair request.
She said, my stand-in can do any of those. Mm-hmm. So the day that she returned back to set, they wanted her to do this stunt on a broom, which, if you remember, she's flying through the sky and there's all this smoke coming out behind the broom.
Surrender Dorothy.
Yes. And so the thing with that was there's no CGI to put the smoke in, so they'd attach this motor to the broom to create smoke. And she said, I will not be getting on this broom. Yeah. That is not something I will be doing. So the stunt double stepped in. All right, fire up the engine. Because they've put in this big engine on the back of it. Mm. She fires up the engine. The engine explodes.
Oh my God.
The stunt double gets thrown to the other end of the room, and because the motor exploded, she got shards of the motor in her skin. So Margaret was like, thank God I refused to jump on that broom, because I would have.
Final Destination meets The Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
This is crazy.
It's a crazy, crazy thing. The saying "a friend of Dorothy" became a big kind of cultural phenomenon for the gays. Judy was a gay icon, and asking someone at the time if they were a friend of Dorothy was a subtle way of asking, are you gay? Without kind of outing yourself or outing the other person. A lot of people believe it kind of came from not only it being an iconically camp film, but Dorothy's acceptance of the characters in this film, these strange, weird people was seen as like the acceptance of, gay people into society.
Oh,
like,
okay. All right.
So they wanted to kind of carry that storyline. And that's probably why a lot of gay people have such an affinity to this film.
Yeah.
The storyline of this cutesy all-American girl accepting these weird characters.
I always thought the Tin Man was a bit fruity.
Yeah, I think so. All the tap dancing and, and the lion, put 'em up.
Put 'em up.
And then the rumor of the munchkin.
Yes.
But that's all kind of the lore around the film, and I'm sure there's plenty more because it only becomes more, I feel like, infamous as time goes on.
I had no idea about the witch catching on fire.
Wild. Poor thing.
That poor lady. And the fact that she went back to film it, she'd be scarred for life.
Yeah. And
literally and mentally.
And mentally. And the fact that the day she went back, she was supposed to do the second stunt, which would have absolutely.
Yeah, something was out to get her on that set. But I think I've seen interviews with the lady who played the witch well into her life.
Yeah.
And she'd always seemed she was so lovely and really nice. And she was on a talk show. She did the laugh for everyone.
Yeah. Should we jump back into the missing shoes?
Yes.
So where did these shoes come from?
I don't know.
Let's find out together. So MGM in the 1970s decided to do a big auction of all of these costumes and sets and bits of movie memorabilia because MGM in the 1970s, old Hollywood was kind of dying. New Hollywood was kind of starting to come up. So they were liquidating a lot of their iconic costumes and things like that.
Yep.
So they were going to have this big kind of prop auction.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was so Kent Warner at the time was a costumer and he had a deep love of Hollywood history.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he saw this auction, he was like, all right, it's my chance to go in and because he worked for MGM as well. So he was like, I'm going to find all these pieces and help put them up for auction. But it meant he could really go in and try and find the ruby slippers. He's like, I know they're in there somewhere. I'm going to find them. So
sounds like he might be a friend of Dorothy.
I believe he was a friend.
I need those shoes.
Give me those shoes. These shoes rule.
These shoes stack.
So he goes in and he finds because he's like, they're hidden somewhere on this lot. They've been lost in the fray of things. So he finds them in a rotting, rat-infested warehouse, 20 feet up on a rickety shelf. So there's not just one pair. There's at least 4 pairs of the ruby slippers.
Yes.
So the most pristine pair were the ones he gave to the MGM and said, all right, these are the ones to auction. These are the ruby slippers.
Yep.
But he took the other couple. So he said, oh, no, there's only one pair.
Yeah, they don't need all 4.
They don't need all 4. So the most pristine pair sold for $15,000 in 1970 to an anonymous buyer.
Mm-hmm.
And then this was the most money that anyone had spent on memorabilia at the time for movies. And it was also the most that in that auction of Cleopatra dresses that Liz Taylor wore, this one piece of memorabilia was the most expensive.
So iconic though.
So iconic.
Yeah.
No one had really anticipated that celebrity artifacts could fetch this kind of money before. And the biggest shock came when actually a Tennessee woman was like, actually, I've got the ruby slippers. So in 1940, this woman had won a competition and they sent her a pair of Judy Garland's ruby slippers. So she already had a pair.
And her name was Madonna. I knew it. I knew she had them.
She had them this whole time. 1940s sounds about right.
Yeah, her 18th birthday.
Yeah, 100%. Warner kept a pair for himself. And he had built a custom display case in his living room where he and his friends could secretly admire them because he didn't want to tell too many people about it.
Him and his friends.
Him and his gays. Yeah. They're all cackling look at these shoes, so beautiful.
They're all having Aperol spritzes.
They're having martinis.
Yeah. Listening to Chromatica.
He also sells another pair to Debbie Reynolds.
Oh, love Debbie Reynolds.
Love Debbie. So she was a really big fan of Hollywood memorabilia.
No surprises
No
there.
surprise.
Yeah.
An iconic family.
Yeah.
So she bought a pair of the ruby slippers for $300, but it was not the pair that Judy wore in the film. It was just a testing pair.
Yeah.
So she bought them because she wanted to open a Hollywood museum.
No surprises. She's so grand Hollywood.
Yeah.
Like very Broadway.
Yeah.
Her daughter was Carrie Fisher, Princess Leia.
Yep.
She was also Grace's mum on Will and Grace.
And she's like
and
she's
she just
perfect.
played herself. She just played herself.
Yeah, 100%.
And she only passed a few years ago.
Yeah, she passed a few days after
Carrie died.
Poor Billy. Was
it Billy Lord.
Billy Lord, that's right. Poor Billy. Like, could you imagine?
Yeah.
Sadness.
Yeah.
Reynolds was supposed to get another set of the slippers, one of the actual pairs that was worn in the film. And she organised for her assistant to get this underway because she was like, well, you can help me organise this museum. But a man named Michael Shaw had other plans. So Shaw handed Warner $2,500 of his own money and took the shoes for himself, never giving them to Debbie at all. I know he really slighted her, leaving Warner to believe that they were destined for the museum. So the costumer thought, all right, I'm selling these shoes to Debbie. She's going to open her museum. I'm happy with that. And the assistant was like, I'm actually going to keep these and took them for himself. This is kind of where the slippers kind of start their foray into the public because Shaw kind of goes, well, I'm the protector of these ruby slippers now. And he's a bit of like he's a friend of Dorothy. Yes. I am absolutely sure.
I'm pretty sure every male involved in this story
is a friend of Dorothy. Shaw starts to make money off it by giving it to the different museums and the public and like kind of lending it to them or for a fee. So it's the middle of summer in Grand Rapids, Minnesota. And the town is buzzing with excitement as the annual Judy Garland Festival kicks off.
We have to go one year.
Yes.
Been meaning to go.
Yeah. This is where Judy Garland actually spent the first 4 years of her life before her family moved to California. So they've claimed her. They claimed her, as you would.
Yeah.
By the time the ruby slippers went missing in 2005, the locals were starting to wonder how like this Judy Garland museum was even keeping its doors open because interest in it was declining. People weren't visiting this museum. In a rural town in the middle of nowhere.
Small town vibes.
Yeah, it's not like if it was in Melbourne and people would constantly be coming through.
Yeah.
This is like
it would be their one probably big draw card for tourism, but it's a big ask to go all the way there just to see the Judy Garland.
And unless you know or you drive past a sign that's like ruby slippers this way, you're probably not going to the Judy Garland Museum.
No.
Weirdly enough, SJ and I in America spent an extra like 3 hours out of our way of our trip to like go to a Tabasco museum, so I could understand the urge to just wander off.
It's very niche.
It's a very niche thing.
But also getting the gays out of the city to a rural town as well is also a big ask. So.
Yeah, I mean, if it's not Provincetown or Fire Island. I mean, if they were in Fire Island, could you imagine? Yeah. The slippers vanished, and once they started investigating, they realised the museum's security was a joke. Any museum. So
shocked.
You don't say.
Big shock there.
This tiny museum has terrible security. Not even the big ones have good security. The alarm on the door had been disabled, and there are rumors that the owners of the museum asked the alarm company to like turn it off, but they were just like, no, they just stopped paying. So we just disarmed it, you know. And the security camera that was watching over the shoes didn't work.
Yep.
So
it's more so a deterrent.
Yes. So it was pretty much an invitation for them to be stolen. Gene Bennett, he was one of the investigators on the case, was kind of like the most popular guy in town as soon as this case broke because A, he's a small town cop, and B, he's like investigating these really famous ruby slippers because it's starting to hit the press like the ruby slippers are missing. It's really like it's a fun fantasy kind of, you know, iconic piece of history. He's like, I've just been kind of sitting around in this town and now all of a sudden I've got to investigate.
In some shoes.
100%. So his phone wouldn't stop ringing with tips from people claiming they knew who had the slippers. But it was really just like Judy Garland fans from all over the world being like, give me the tea. Yeah. Everyone was kind of pointing the fingers at each other. And Bennett said it was like dozens of people fighting over the same woman. Like it was weird. People have this real parasocial relationship with Judy Garland, even like to this day. And they were like, some people get so obsessed with her.
Oh, absolutely.
That they just want to be a part of it. So anything that they can do to be a part of it.
No, she's like, definitely one of those famous icons.
Yeah.
That have that. You've got the Cher, you've got the Madonnas, you've got these people that are just ride or die forever.
Yeah, forever.
Even like after they pass, they'll still, keep them alive.
Exactly.
Barbara Streisand, like just
Patti LuPone. Yeah. Less so Patti though.
Yeah. I feel like Chapel Roan's going to be one of those people.
Oh, you do?
You heard it here first.
I mean, she doesn't want to be seen. She doesn't want a photo taken by anyone.
Oh, and it's good on it. Who cares? It's her right.
Exactly.
But yeah, no, I can see that directory of her getting to like Lady Gaga levels.
Yes.
And Lady Gaga, the same, will be.
Yeah, she'll be one of those people.
Yeah.
And could you imagine how many people probably already have just crazy parasocial relationships with her?
Absolutely.
Especially like, I feel like back in the day she used to be more open with her fans. I feel like she's a little bit more closed off now.
She's reached that level where she kind of has to be like, separate.
Right. So locals doubted it was one of their own who was behind the theft. Anyone who had been to Grand Rapids, they kind of were like, it's just a little country town. No one's really got the want to heist. So locals doubted it was one of their own who was behind the theft, because what would anyone in Grand Rapids do with the ruby slippers?
What would they do?
What would they do? Just put them on?
Pop down to Coles.
No. Size 5.5 shoes.
Because anywhere you go, all you have to do is click your heels 3 times. Then you'd go home. You wouldn't have to walk anywhere.
There's no place like home. There's no place like home. This is how teleportation happens. That's exactly what the thief was counting on, because the small town naivety was, patrons, people in the country were just like, we don't lock our cars. We don't lock our houses.
Yeah.
This particular town is very trustworthy.
Yeah. That kind of stuff doesn't happen
around here. The slippers were essentially left unprotected, which is what the thief wanted.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the theories was that it was an inside job because the museum, I guess, was not making any money. So maybe they were going to get some money out of, insurance.
Yeah.
To be fair, the staff had been really cooperative. The museum director kind of explained that the alarm on the door had been disabled because the museum couldn't afford the fines when visitors accidentally set it off. So they had this alarm system. Every time it went off and it wasn't a true reason, they'd get fined.
Yeah, because it immediately signals the local fire station or something like that. That happened when I was working for a retailer in New York.
Oh.
Someone was steaming a garment too close to and this is like a 3-story in the middle of, I don't know if I've told this story before.
I don't think you have.
3-story in the middle of Soho in New York, 3-story building, 3 levels of clothing, super duper duper busy. Someone was steaming a garment too close to the fire alarm, set the fire alarm off. That immediately gets the NY police and fire people coming direct.
Wow.
Us and the customers, we all had to leave the store, go to the we had to get the customers out of the change rooms and stuff. We had to go to the point which was on the corner of the street.
Yeah.
And the poor guy, I'll just remember, he knew he set it off. He was so upset. And it was a massive fine. I want to say $10,000.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they switched those alarms off pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Because I guess as well, if it's on a door and someone just accidentally opens the door.
Absolutely.
It's just going to set it up.
Yeah.
The security camera that was in the room also always got turned off at night as well. So if you were there during the day, it was more so to be like, all right, we're just watching that people aren't touching it, as opposed to someone who's going to come in at night and steal it. Bennett's main suspect, so this is the cop, Bennett, his main suspect was a local punk. with a criminal record. He just did it without realizing, the significance of the shoes. It was more so just for the fun of it.
Yeah.
But the guy, so they wanted to arrest him, but the guy that they wanted to arrest refused a polygraph and there wasn't enough evidence to arrest him. So it kind of just, the lead disapparated.
Why would you refuse a polygraph if you knew you were innocent?
So if you know you're innocent, still refuse the polygraph because polygraphs aren't correct.
Yes. Yeah.
So if you are ever...
That makes sense.
It's like the first thing. It's like if you want a lawyer immediately, it's an admission of guilt. No, you should have a lawyer. Regardless.
Yeah.
And then if you are asked to take a polygraph, you should refuse because if you are like just nervous, it can come off as...
Yeah. Okay.
So a lot of these times people are like, oh, it's an admission of guilt. It's like, well, no, you probably just don't want to do it. Look, this guy might have been guilty.
It's a lose-lose because it's like you do it, there's the off chance that you will set it off even though you're innocent. But if you also refuse it, it's like, well, what do you have to hide?
Yeah, it's the whole thing of like asking for a lawyer. We all know now. Ask for a lawyer.
Always.
Even
Got one on standby every time we're here.
Yeah, retainer. Allegedly. There's also a theory that brings a whole other level of intrigue. So Michael Shaw, who owned the ruby slippers, what if it had been him all along? It was Tabitha all along. For those of you playing at home, Tabitha is coming out. And
Agatha.
Oh, yeah. Agatha. That's it.
Tabitha's the witch from Passions.
She gets her own spin-off show. Please.
It was her all along.
Could you imagine?
Timmy. Okay, back up. All right. So the original owner of the shoes.
Yes. Who ripped off Debbie.
Yes.
Yep.
But then gave it to this.
So he's renting it out, I guess, these shoes to the museum. So they're thinking maybe it's him because he will benefit from insurance.
Oh, okay. That would be why. Okay.
Yes. So when something this valuable disappears, the first thought is insurance fraud.
Yeah.
So Shaw's behavior was eccentric.
Mm-hmm.
That could just be because he is an eccentric man.
Yes.
So he was constantly on Bennett's case demanding updates, and at a press conference in Los Angeles, he made a big show of revealing that he'd insured the slippers for $1 million.
Okay.
So he paid $2,500 for it and he's insured them for $1 million. So
yeah, well, that's seeming a bit
fishy.
Suspicious.
It's like taking life insurance out on your partner.
Yeah.
And then they go missing 6 months later. You're like,
Absolutely. He was always so clumsy.
Oh dear, she just fell down the stairs.
He was always terrible with his footing.
I don't know how he chopped all those fingers off. Must have just been cutting up some carrots or something. I don't know. Shaw always said, I don't want the money, I want the shoes. So who knows? But about a year after the theft, Shaw settled with his insurance agency for an undisclosed amount. He claims it was much more than the 666,000 people assumed, which is a very devilish number.
666.
666. And that he had them appraised for at least 1.5 million. Mm-hmm. So a lot of money numbers flying about. A private investigator hired by the insurance company found no reason not to pay out. So Shaw did actually end up getting the insurance payout. So did he orchestrate the whole thing?
I think he might have.
Maybe.
I just want to say, I don't want the money, I just want the shoes is such like a great lyric. I don't want the money, baby. I want the shoes.
Somebody write that.
Yes.
Produce it for us. The case kind of dies out. So this is 2005-ish. Year later, he gets his money. But then in 2015, there's $1 million reward offered for these shoes. So this is many years. This is 10 years later. Someone says, I've put up $1 million to try and get these shoes back. They're still missing at this point. And it's kind of...
Who's the person who's put up the thing for the reward?
I don't know whether it was the community of Minnesota or it was just a private anonymous donor who was like, I'm happy to put the money up to try and get these shoes back. Like they're a part of history. We want to find them.
Yeah, right.
Mind you, there's still 3 other pairs out there, but I don't know. People really wanted these shoes.
Yeah, I mean, like it's such a big call to be like, I'll give $1 million just to know that these shoes are safe even though I don't own them.
Yeah.
I just want them back.
Yeah, it's a patron of the arts.
Yeah.
Friend of Dorothy, some might say. So the case then goes cold again, but in 2018, the FBI swooped in with a sting operation, finally brought the slippers back into light. But even though the shoes were recovered, the identity of the thief remained a mystery.
Where did they recover them from?
Yeah. So in May 2023, so this is 18 years after, almost 18 years after the heist, the federal prosecutors in North Dakota, they had a suspect. And his name was Terry John Martin.
Oh, Terry John.
Terry John. I always knew it was him. And so Martin wasn't like a smooth-talking criminal. Smooth criminal. He wasn't a con artist. He was just, at the time, a 76-year-old man living 12 miles away from the museum.
Oh, he just wanted the shoesies.
So they caught up with Martin after his name was released to the press. And he wasn't really he's kind of like this grumpy old man.
Yeah.
He says, I got to go to trial. I got to go on trial and I don't want to talk to you. That's all he says to the press. I got to go on trial. I don't want to talk to you.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Doesn't have time for bullshit. He's in his 70s.
Yeah. He's over it.
Yeah.
So in October, Martin struck a plea deal and the real story behind the theft began to unravel. According to a memo filed by his defense attorney, Martin wasn't always a law-abiding citizen. He was a reformed mobster. He was trying to stay on the straight and narrow after his release from prison in 1996, but he couldn't fight the urge.
He needed to do something naughty.
So an old associate from his shady past suggested that the ruby slippers were encrusted with real rubies.
Okay.
So he said, well.
Which they weren't.
They were not.
No. Costume would have been costume jewelry.
Yeah, it would have been 100% costume jewelry. And also sequins. But there's 3 rubies on the front and he thought they were real.
Gotcha.
Don't know why.
No.
He tried to kind of resist the urge of a heist, but he was like, look, one last big score, that'll keep me going. That's my retirement fund.
Yeah.
He kind of kept thinking it over and then he was like, well, you know what? It's not going to be that hard.
Yeah.
The funny thing was, Martin had never, ever seen The Wizard of Oz. He had no idea about the cultural significance of these shoes. He just kind of was like, there's money in here. I'm just going to take them.
Oh, I kind of wanted it to be some obsessed fan.
Yeah, it really wasn't. So he was just armed with a hammer, smashed the display case, grabbed the shoes, rushed them to a fence, and the fence took one look at the slippers and said, mate, these gems they're glass. What were you thinking?
Yeah.
So he just kind of went, oh, okay.
Oh, well, that was a bust.
That was a bust. And apparently he got rid of them less than 2 days after the heist. So
all of that for nothing.
And if he had realized probably the cultural significance of them, he probably could have made some money off them. So the slippers vanished kind of for over a decade and their whereabouts were a mystery. The FBI have been really tight-lipped since about how they've tracked down the ruby slippers. And even now, Martin still is not speaking about where they were. He just said, I got rid of them. I don't know where they went.
Did he get prosecuted or anything like that?
He sure did. So
just let him go.
I know. Well, technically they did. So his sentence was on January 29th of actually this year, I believe.
Yeah.
And he was convicted to 1 year served with supervised release, which essentially, because he's quite ill now. He's in a walker. He's got an oxygen tank. So they were like, 1 year served. And he was ordered to pay $23,000 in restitution to the Judy Garland Museum.
He wouldn't have had $23,000.
Maybe he does.
He must have.
He must have. So at 76 years old, he's in hospice care. Mm-hmm. And honestly, it was his last crime that he ever committed.
Yeah.
And his legacy will now always be tied to that one heist where he had no idea.
The man who stole the ruby
slippers when he had no idea what they were.
He could have pretended he found them, gotten $1 million.
Yeah, exactly. So currently these ruby slippers, they're doing a bit of a tour.
Yes.
And then they will be put on auction. So they're going to auction again. And
They'll be worth a lot.
So they're valued at about $3.5 million.
Oh my God.
It's like Salvador Mundi all over again.
Mundi 2.0.
Cyber Mundi. Currently, Minnesota and the Judy Garland Museum are trying to raise money so they have the opportunity to buy them.
Okay.
But also, guys, you lost them once. Do we want to try it again?
Yeah, maybe install some cameras this time. Guys.
Come on, guys. So I'll leave you with this quote from the US attorney who prosecuted the case. It took brains, heart, and courage to bring this case to a successful conclusion. And those are the qualities of our FBI partners that they have in spades.
Okay.
Just leave it at the first part.
Yeah.
And that is the story of the missing ruby slippers.
That is fascinating. I cannot believe I hadn't heard anything about this.
I know. I guess because there's 4 of them. But these ones have got her name on them.
Yeah.
And now someone's going to end up owning them. If you're out there, buy them for us.
I do think this guy, though, should have just been given you scoundrel.
Yeah.
But, well, it's all in the past now. You're like in your late 70s. I think there must be, unless, depending on the crime.
Yeah.
There should be a cutoff age
Yeah.
where it's like,
all right.
Depending on the crime.
I wonder where those shoes were for a decade.
Yeah, he might have said that he got rid of them, but
he actually didn't.
Yeah.
Or someone was, you know what? If the FBI was involved, someone used them as a bargaining chip.
Yeah.
If they've all of a sudden turned up and no one really knows why or where, someone's gone.
The flames are getting a bit too close. I better,
I'll cut you a deal.
Yeah.
I know where the ruby slippers are.
I want to see them.
Yeah, and
I feel like I have, but I might not have.
Yeah. Also, I
saw someone's shoes. Maybe it was I know at the Acme Museum they had a women in film.
Oh, yes.
They had it was probably they had Mae West's shoes.
Oh, yes.
And because she was so short, all her shoes had a built-in platform.
Interesting.
But they still looked like when you put your foot in that they were just regular shoes. But she was
Why don't you come up and see me sometime? Yeah.
That was fascinating.
I know. So that is Judy Garland and her little shoesies.
And her shoes, the case of the missing
shoes. Any thoughts, any feelings?
No, just fascinating stuff. No. Good night.
Just stay here for the next week.
No, I thought that was really interesting. I love the lore about the Wizard of Oz. We were talking earlier about on Shudder, I think the streaming platform, the scary streaming platform, they do have a cursed movie series.
And it's fun.
It's really fun.
Except for some of them that are really dark.
Well, yeah. But they had one on Wizard of Oz.
Yeah, they did.
So yeah, just
so much. I
I
love iconic films having spooky stories.
It just seemed like an absolute nightmare.
Yeah.
For such a gorgeous, happy, joyous film, knowing all this stuff that happened behind the scenes is so bizarre.
So sad. And, we all know Judy's life really changed because of this film.
Yeah.
Good and bad.
Yeah.
So, yeah. What a time.
What a time. Thank you, Dorothy.
You know where to find us?
Yeah.
We're on the Instagram. We're on the TikTok. We're on the YouTube.
On the YouTubes.
Come and watch us. Leave us a comment.
Yeah.
Make sure you rate and subscribe to us.
Yep, all those things.
And we'll see you on the next one.
Tell people about us. Please tell people.
Please. Just tell one friend.
Yeah, we love it. We're like Tinkerbell. If we don't get attention, we'll die.
Fast clap for us. And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.